If a psychologist wants to know how the brain works, say, or a neurologist, all I can do is have you move your fingers and pick up what area of the brain is active. Do you understand? Then thinking, solving problems, so they can map out what area becomes active. That's all they can do. But they can't tell you whether it's right, wrong, good, or bad. They can map out the areas of the brain by hitting your knee and picking up electrical signals from different parts of the brain. You can map out the brain, but that doesn't tell you how the brain works. Do you understand that up to now? Okay. There are many people that try to study the mind. You can't study the mind. It's like taking primitive technology way back 100 years ago, giving them a transistor, saying, what is it? They can't say what it is. They don't know what a transistor is. They don't know what a capacitor is. They don't know what a vacuum tube is. So all they can do is cut it. Now if you bring a chemist in, he can tell you what comprises a transistor. Certain amount of magnesium, silicone, you know what I mean? But he can't tell you what it is. Is that real clear? Studying the brain does not tell you anything about it. You have to study the brain's reaction in relation to the environment. The brain is a responding mechanism. When you shine a bright light in the eye, it responds. So you can say, this is how much it responds, how little it responds, but you can't tell what it is. Studying the brain gives you nothing unless you study it in relationship to the environment. A bird with wings can't fly when there's no air, and will stop flying if you can put an oxygen mask on the bird, and he'll flap his wings and he won't get off the ground. He won't even try to fly after a while. Only with air there will he move. Do you understand? Now, if you beat down one wing with more pressure, you turn the wing into the wind and beat down, you'll bank. A bird does not know how to fly instinctively. He beats his wings different ways, and if it gets him where he wants to go, when he turns it down, he moves forward. If he turns it this way, he stops in midair, if he's a hummingbird. So the bird responds. Studying the bird, you have to study the environment that the bird lives in. Do you understand that? There's no way you can dissect the brain and say this is what the man is like, except in context of the environment. Is that real clear? So, if I want to study human behavior, what I'm really studying is the reactions of human beings in a given environment. I can't study human behavior. I can study their reactions. When something is hot, they move away from it. When it's cold, they might move toward it. It all depends.
So, how does the brain work? That's this Jerry Van Amergen cartoon. So we're going to close out here in a couple of minutes, so hold on, we're just about finished. Let me explain something about the brain. It's a process of connections. Connections of experiences. Experiences come into our perception. Perception is experience. That's what it is. And as we get a perception, we set up our body to respond to that perception. So basically it says this: the brain is the device that converts whatever the experiences are into awareness. So light comes into my eyes, but electromagnetic vibrations go out my nerve. Sound comes into my ear, but electromagnetic vibrations come out my nerve to my brain. Touch is physical pressure, but electromagnetic vibrations come up my arm. The point is, the brain converts all of this environment into electromagnetic vibrations, which become our awareness. But the part about the brain is that it records these things, so that as an experience comes in, not only are we seeing the picture at this moment and our live awareness, but we are also recording the ability to remember that experience. Why? And the answer, this is this really critical but interesting part, is why? And the answer is this: because if I take my awareness and play it back through my brain, I repeat the experience again. The bottom line is the brain is a recorder. It's like a slide, it's like a camera. It takes a slide. Here's a picture of what I learned. And then awareness is the light bulb that illuminates the slide. So when I take my awareness and play it back through the slide, I recreate the behavior. So as much as people don't want to hear it and somebody says, well, you're just like your mom, or you're just like your dad, and you go back and go, no, it can't be. And the reality is, yeah, because your behavior is how you learn from them, and your behavior is a playback of your experiences. But then you say, wait, I have free will, I have a mind, I could think of different things. And the answer is this is where the critical part comes out, is this. It's based on this picture I'm going to show you, but it's based on this fact first. It is estimated that 4 billion nerve impulses are coming into your brain every second. While you're sitting right now, 4 billion nerve impulses are hitting in your brain every second. But you can only handle approximately 2,000 bits of that data in consciousness. What does that mean? Well, it says that most of the information that's coming in is you're not being consciously aware of it. I'll give you an example. Okay, you've been looking at the slides up here. All of a sudden, focus on the shirt on your back. Just focus on it a second. Can you feel it? Go ahead, move it a little bit. Can you feel that sitting back there? And the point was, were you not feeling your shirt before I asked you to feel it? The answer is, no, you were feeling it all the time. Nerves don't shut off. They're always coming in. But the fact was what? Well, you weren't paying attention to it because it wasn't necessary for you and your consciousness to bring up the fact, hey, you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing a shirt. It's like, I know I'm wearing the shirt. You don't have to tell me. So the brain is smart. Things that it knows, it does not bring up to your conscious attention. Why? Because your conscious attention only can handle such a small percent. Let me show you what percent. Imagine there are 4 billion little tiny pixel dots that make up this landscape, and that this represents all the information coming into your brain right now. How much of this information in the slide actually enters into your consciousness? And the answer is, you see that little dot? If you can, or if you can't see it, that dot is 1,000 times larger because I had to be able to show it to you. In other words, where's all this? What's all this stuff? And the stuff is, it's information that's coming into your head right now, but why isn't it in your consciousness? The answer is, because if you've already learned how to do something or respond to the signal, there's no reason to like, hey, you got a shirt on, you got a shirt on. It's like, I don't need to know that. And the point about it is this, then most of our behavior, listen to this, most of our behavior has been from experiential replaying over and over and over again. So the concept is this, most of the behavior that you elicit, you don't think about consciously. I'll give you an example. For those that drive a car, it's a great example. Have you ever gotten in a car and gotten in a discussion with somebody while you were driving, and you talked and you talked and you talked, and you realized about a half hour later that you've been driving for half an hour, you haven't paid attention to anything on the road, but you also realized you got here too, so you didn't hit anything either. And the point about it was what? Because driving is a learned experience that you can put it into your programming and do it automatically. Walking is a learned experience. I broke my knee a few years ago, and when I had it reconstructed, I realized I had to relearn how to walk because it took a whole process of how to move the leg and step and all that, because when they rebuilt it, it broke up all the old pathways. And the point was, my God, when I walk down the street now, I don't think about moving this, yet it involves a lot of coordination, a lot of learning went into this, and the bottom point is this. Then most of the behavior that you elicit is transparent to you. You don't even see it. Why? Because it's so automatic that on the job and whatever you're doing, it just comes out. Somebody pushes a button, you make a response. You're not thinking. You're thinking about, well, I want to go on vacation. I can't wait to go home. I'm looking forward to this, and yet you're doing your job. How can you do that and still have those other thoughts go on in that little tiny dot of consciousness? And the answer is this. Because almost all of our actions are out of our purview. We don't see them. They're repeated automatically. And why does this get to be a problem? It's the difference between walking your talk and not walking your talk. Why? In your head, you are a good person. You say to yourself, I try, I'm being good, I want to lose weight, I want all these things. Why can't I control it? And the answer is, because all that consciousness represents is that little tiny dot. Most of the control, 99.999999%, is already pre-programmed from your learned experiences. You can't lose weight just because that little conscious dot says so. You have to recognize you have weight because of whatever learning experiences you had about your life. They were programmed in there. You can get rid of the program. You could get amnesia. So I'll give you an example. Remember the movie Regarding Henry with Harrison Ford? Here's a lawyer who gets shot and wakes up in the hospital. He's got amnesia. Who am I? What am I? Well, you know what's going on here. So they take him home, and his wife tries to say, this is how we live and all this. And he goes to the job, and all his work people are showing him. And he's a lawyer, you know, and he starts to look at, review from a distance, his life. Because he wanted to fill the picture back in. And as he started to put the picture back in, all of a sudden he made up his mind. He said, you know, that really stinks. This is a stinking life. And he decided, the hell with the picture. I'm going to make a brand new life. So he got out there and ended up converting his beliefs into all new beliefs and immediately changed his life. And the problem is this. Unless you have amnesia, all your beliefs are still locked in there. And the problem about that is, no matter if your consciousness says this is what you want to do, if you don't get to the core belief, you'll find that your thoughts and your actions are not on the same level with each other. And that you'll observe people that say, I don't know why people don't like me. I'm such a nice person. Get out of here and don't bother me. I'm talking over here. Can't you see it? I'm really a nice person. Get out. And the point, why? Is because they don't even see themselves saying this. Why? It's all pre-programmed. But the consciousness is concerned about the fact that they're not liked. The issue is we have to connect our understanding to our beliefs.
So, if you meet with a person and say, I'm going to exaggerate here, they have 1,000 neural associations, you know, in the brain. And then you meet a person with 40,000 associations. When you talk, there's more response. Less response with less associations. Do you understand that? If a person's very simple, he says, God wanted it that way, that's why it's that way. Well, that doesn't tell you a damn thing, except that person's reaction. Using reason with them does not work unless you equip them with the tools of reason. Now, there are no tools of reason except specific tools of reason. How to fly a kite, how to build a wheel, that's specific reason. But general reasoning cannot be imparted to people, particularly if they like things the way they are, meaning if their reactions are very simple. Now, the reason most people behave badly or poorly is because they understand simple things. A person once said to me, when I ask you a question, I never get an answer, I get a lecture, because there are no answers. And the guy said, why does my brother get angry all the time? Because he gets angry, that's why. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. So, if you've got to remember, if a person's that simple, you don't have the time to fill in all that detail unless they say, I'd like to know step by step what made my brother get angry. That's good, because it shows some kind of inquiry, even if they learn the words, don't know what it means. Now you have to prove to them that most language is based upon primitive reactions. Like if lightning occurs, a primitive person might think that nature is angry, or God is angry, or the God of lightning is angry, whatever they do. If they're at that level, you don't want it. But if you take native children away from their parents, you can bring them up to the modern world. No matter how primitive a person is, if you take their babies, you can make them scientific, chemists, anything. But taking an adult is jamming their whole associative system. If you bring a primitive person to an airport, he does not look at the airplane in terms of the wings and the struts and the landing gear and wonder at all those components. He can't do that. He can look and grin, just like you look at a tree when you're not into plant anatomy. You can't see the tree. An anatomist sees more of the tree, a plant physiologist, than you do. Or you may see clearer than he does, but he knows what to look for. Like whether it's the rings of the tree that tell him how old the tree is, or the width of the rings, whether there was a drought or flood at that time. He has learned to read, or she has learned to read nature. When I say there's no such thing as human nature, there's human reactions to the environment. Some are relevant, some are completely irrelevant. knowing the difference, the guy says, why did you beat the hell out of your kid? He's way off the subject. The guy might say, because my kid didn't listen to me. That isn't the answer. It's the whole story. You know what I mean? So when normal people, normal meaning, have simpler reactions, you can't discuss human nature with them because they have a fixed notion already of what human nature is. Some inborn propensities or characteristics that are passed on generation after generation. And if behavior were fixed, we'd still be living in caves.
Oksana Malaya began her life living with dogs. Rejected by her mother and father, she somehow survived for 6 years, living wild, before being taken into care. There are few cases of feral children who have been able to fully compensate for the neglect they suffered. Oksana is now 22, but her future still hangs in the balance. Have scientists learned enough from previous cases to rehabilitate her? For 6 years, Oksana Malaya spent her life living in a kennel with dogs. Totally abandoned by her mother and father, she was discovered behaving more like an animal than a human child. For 2 centuries, wild children have been the objects of fascinating study. Raised without love or social interaction, wild or feral children pose the question, what is it that makes us human? Oksana was born in November 1983.
When the baby girl was born, she weighed 5 pounds 11 ounces and didn't have any abnormalities.